Welcome to this part 1 of public relations subject. In this module, in this part and module we are going to discuss on some issues which are related to the public relations. Uh, there are around 10 challenges which any public relation has to face into the future. One is a shift of mobile mind of the people, where devices are playing a vital role nowadays in taking the content beyond the small screen, where everyone is accustomed with and used to use mobiles, maybe mobiles or tabs or even laptops today. Internet has made them to come across such news related to PR in a very convenient way to them. So we have something hyper personalized content where the desire of the customers in getting information which is very personalized one, and it is very sent to the right people, to the right a targeted audience, to the right channel in the right time, where because of this personalized content can be holding customers or maybe a stakeholders attention towards the organization. One more concept like challenge has like local type of an industry, where in this understanding about the geographic area, understanding about the culture of that particular area, okay, understanding those country and the people, and making them to understand about the PR by learning about those people is a very prime part of any organization nowadays to know. We have something real-time crisis monitoring, where nearly almost 30% of company crisis usually spread internationally within an hour, and around over two-thirds of crisis again international in 24 hours. The major key, in terms like any agencies of PR and any staff of the corporate has to have very quick access to it, and when they identify any one of the warning signs of a crisis, they should be very alert enough in understanding them and getting solved. Nowadays, when it comes to journalism or traditional way of journalism, almost they are at the verge of vanishing, where the role what was played by any traditional media has almost come to an absolute. Okay, it has been faded. So nowadays, the image of the organization or brands which are representing an organization, they take their own stories or news to the public and the stakeholders, and they make them to engage towards the organization. Such a strength of the brand has been increased nowadays. These concepts are almost used by many organizations in building some good relationship with their own stakeholders. Okay, and also they are going to add to the PR effectiveness. So next we have like a transparency, where there is too much of risk for any company when it can lose the control over any negative news which is spreading into the geographical area or into the industry. So there is something like our brands can only will be addressing and repairing whatever the bad news and experience the customer has because of this crisis, and the causes which happens because of the crisis, where honestly and transparently it is going to be told to them. Their brands will be backing or helping an organization in solving such crisis and problems. So the biggest challenge is like measuring. So measuring PR campaign is not so easy, because when we talk about public relations, here something a sort of behavior which is intended by an organization that has to be developed into the public, and that should be exposed in the industry and towards the organization, it has to be very favorably dealt. So here measurement regarding any PR campaign which has been done for certain time with certain concept, those programs whether they have successfully dealt or they have failed, that has to be understood. Measuring is not so easy for anybody, because that comes to very qualitative one. Only the result can be easily identified by organization once the brand takes a good a lead into the market, or some good image has been developed about the organization into the industry among the public or the stakeholders. Next comes like power of image. As I told you, people where image driven content not only increase the customers engagement or retention, it also makes to get more sales towards the products. So most of the money flows from the market to the organization because the sales increases. It's all about due to the image which has been created in the market regarding brand and organization. So next comes like what value that a brand holds, or holding a brand value is also a biggest challenge for any company, where majority of the companies they will be projecting their value into PR and marketing materials by the use of such brands. For example, like brands like Red Bull or Nike. These makes lot of focus on their marketing campaigns, which will be helping them to deliver the best product and services to the organization. Next comes like integrated marketing communication, where all the seven tools of this integrated marketing communications will be used by organization. How effectively or the combination of these different tools of communication will be used in a very effective way to reach their public. That also is the biggest challenge. So next we have something like certain public relations challenges. Will be continuing the same credibility. This credibility means that editors at those any outlets tend to screen PR message very accurately because of their expertise, okay, and efficiency in doing such things. So in a very professional way they do it, and they also assess the quality of the PR. This can also be improved like credential and background of an organization, or sometimes getting help from the any third party who will be endorsing your message, and also they will be giving some facts or figures which will be supporting your uh, PR activity programs or the claims what the people do when you people are constructing a message into PR. So there are some multiple channels also where especially like social media taken with a high priority nowadays with very low cost and reaching your target customers and interested communities. So those people will, because of their interest into such a type of news or issues with respect to the companies which they love to listen. So it's simple to spread news into the social media sites, especially because of the user friendly nature for both of them, the people who are using it as well as the organization. So also nowadays we people can find two-way PR activities. It's a very challenging one in the 21st century, where the target audience can be easily replying or discussing on certain message which has been spread among them. With the organization they can do also sometimes within the community who have the same type of interest in talking to each other on certain issues which they have common issue interest. There are different type of issues we people find like latent issues, emerging issues, hot issues or fallout issues. Now when we are talking about latent issues, there is some possibility that it can happen sooner or sometimes later. So this is early sign that any organization receives that some issues or some crisis can be hitting the organization due to some doubts. So just we can say that it's very far thinking for any scholars of social activities, but it's very sufficient apparently valid that it could become a very issue sooner or later. So when you're talking about emerging issue, this is something like a social interest or organization which they adopt some ideas or new group forms around it, where this is going to sure happen. So the early sign how we people talk about latent issues, these have taken almost some sort of image or some sort of a shape which they become emerging or hot issues. So we have something like hot issues which are fully blown issue in the current debate, where the issue has already happened. So this is something very hard that people are interested, they talk to each other, they discuss among themselves and etc. So last we have something like fallout issue. These are something what we said as leftover from the statements of hot issue, which usually come back into a public agenda because they have already come into knowledge about those type of issues. What we said identity, visibility, Uh, Next we have something like target audience. These are target audiences where they are referred as some sort of groups which are targeted to be the recipients of any message when the PR activity or program or content has been developed. Message will be delivered to only those people who have interest, and finding them is also a difficult part for any PR professionals. So these type of groups or target audience comprises maybe an individual, it may be a stakeholders group, or sometimes even a general public also. So who belongs to several different stakeholders group has to be identified. So when we people are identifying these target groups, we have to focus on three main elements. One, where these people live, okay, and what usually they read, have an interest, and what are the characteristics or homogeneous similarity those people will be having between them. So like we have a different type of target audience here. One we say active, second passive, and interviewing audience. These active audience are already something audience which have interest into an organization, issues or cause related to that any crisis happen, and instead of these people are waiting to receive information on it, they usually seek it out from many resources, and when they're doing so they speak well and also listen about the issues. So they have very much interest in listening and discussing them with the different people or related people. These people, these type of audience we say them as active audience. So when it comes to passive audience, these people are good, or having interest in listening to it, but probably they don't discuss. So these type of audience members who are not so much interested on organizing issues of cause, but who are not interested at specific time also. But there are very few groups which are made or developed entirely of active or maybe a passive group. The key often is that determine whether the majority sits with a sits with a different community and discuss on certain issues. So we have something like intervening audience. These type of audience or groups, uh, these people will be acting like influencers, where those people take the message to the different type of targeted groups or audience which have interest into such messages or any issues. They act like channel, or say they are going to endorse the message of any PR with respect to the target audiences. So these are three type of different type of target audience. Next we have subject media audience. These type of audience are individuals who have interest in reading, watching, or sometimes listening to the specific media outlet. And usually the media people or organizations, they always look for such audience. They collect their demographic and psychological characteristics and such information which suits them or their behavior. That type of message will be delivered to them. So next we have deliver type of audience. These all are like potential or maybe actual viewers, maybe readers, listeners, or participants who can be easily reached. So next we have like effective audience. These are also like all potential or actual viewers, readers, listeners, or say participants among the target audience who are very part of a delivered audience. So who have too much of interest and they receive completely 100%. Whatever the message that PR professionals or PR programs make them to receive. Next, we have something like public, a service as preventive public relations. This is something how much a concern that any organization shows towards society, the problems with respect to the society or needs of the society. Even organization has to engage in some service to the public by the means of programs which normally created and implemented by the PR professional team of the PR professional on behalf of the organization. There are certain roles which has to be handled by any PR professional or PR department, where these people will be working on developing strategies, planning and research about any social problems and needs and how it can be tackled. Once the problem has been identified, they have to develop some programs in an effective way with what exactly the objectives to be developed and how those objectives can be easily met by with the strategic planning. So there will be something like mediator or liaison type of people between the organization, government, and the which would be helping them in delivering, okay, or helping an organization to reach their public. Then they will be developing events, conducting events and meetings regarding the review and controlling of looking after or assessing what planning has been done, whether it has been implemented properly or not, or strategically whether they have met or not. So something media placements and relationship, they will be looking after selecting good media, okay, according to the content, how best they can reach and what relation those people can build with the media. Their duty is also to have a preparation on print, audio and also visual material which will be helping a general public or stakeholders to get attention towards the PRSA. And also they will be conducting some interviews and news conferences also with a journalist who will be helping them to reach or transferring that message to the general public. So we have some special interest type of members here in this special type of interest members. These are certain type of members or groups which will be working on self-interest concept. It is the duty of any personal, say professional people with respect to PR, social interest members. They are something will be helping the organization to keep relationship with something other type of people who are out of the organizational reach. So maybe something like intersections which are like association and non-profit organizations which will be helping organization to take PR to the related target audience. Maybe corporate communications, consular academies, consular to very higher education like educators, academy, etc. There are some importance of compromise when it comes to public relations, crisis, and maybe a general public. This is one of the best way where they will be reaching full potential within an organization and so increasing confidence in confidence into the public to understand what type of compromise one can make and both the parties can get some good benefit out of it. So when it comes to in order to maximize the success of any compromise, the most of the people probably they find this as a different area, such into like workplace, into the relations, maybe in some aspects of personal life, the compromise plays a very important role. By agreeing upon not getting everything that anybody wants, okay, and acknowledging actually to the others desires also, no doubt. So conflict can be easily resolved by understanding that what best negotiation can happen between two people where both can get maximum profit with a minimum loss. So as I told you, some form of negotiation, okay, in business meeting, sharing some responsibility with the others, okay, sometimes handling different comments to make time for all of us one's personal goals. So this is one where we'll be helping somebody to have some good knowledge about how best with the cooperation the task can be carried out. This compromise can be helping any PR person and the related people in developing a relationship which will be very strong enough, and this can be easily built on the basis of compromise, and it should be known that what is the importance or a value of the compromise skill. So this will be something demonstrating that is very concerned towards somebody's needs, okay, and how they are willing to meet somebody's needs through the mutual cooperation. How to recognize unhealthy compromise then? Now, it's also a duty for anybody when compromise happens. See to it that both the parties will get some good results out of it and profit out of it. So something like win-win situation may be the better one in this type of compromises. So how to identify or recognize that this compromise when any two parties are doing is unhealthy. So usually negotiations play a very important role in working towards some common goals or given project to some group of people. This compromise can be very unhealthy when they determine something like on personal beliefs or say values. A person should not make compromise that undermine your integrity. So having a trustworthy mediator can be very important during the difficult negotiation. So finding some third person will be, making impartial decisions, okay, between two people and helping both the people to arrive at certain compromise or decision. So the common perception about compromising, there is a belief that there are two type of compromise which happens. One we say soft and another we say it as hard. So when we are talking about soft, there are certain characteristics of a soft compromise. Especially in soft compromise, both of them to they try usually avoid the conflicts, okay, and no conflicts arises between them. There will be mutual understanding, generally more willing to give to the others, okay, showing too much of concern for the other party, often more trustworthy and honest, very clear and transparent, type of communication happens when it comes to soft type of compromises. The more focus will be given on building the relationship among both of them, and also usually very interest the both the parties will be having, where they search for mutual benefits, okay, the ways best can be helping them to satisfy their own benefits. So next we have something hard type of standards. There are certain characteristics. Basically, the aim of hard compromise is to win rather than understanding some importance of a compromise or somebody else problem. Here it can be pressurizing some other party or opposite party will be getting too much of pressure to compromise on whatever the first party says. Here, there will be a lack of consideration for the need of the other party, as I told you people, right? And they are very usually powerful. This compromise works on the power base. Okay, based on the power, the compromise will get a success or a failure. How to then any compromise may happen or may not happen? Some issues will happen because of the crisis or some reasons or a cause. Okay, how these issues can be anticipated or solved? That's the biggest challenge one. So how do issue anticipation can happen? Here, when it comes to public relations, so environmental monitoring, research, and connections with the public can also helping them to understand what exactly the intensity of issue is, okay, and what may be the probable behavior has been exhibited by any public at that particular moment when issue is prevailing into the area or geographic area or maybe in the industry. So what may be the early warning system can be easily identified regarding the potential problem. So this bargains for how you anticipate, analyze and interpret the opinion of the public about an attitude of the public and the issue which can be impacting the relationship between the organization and the public. So we have to find that whether this issue is good or bad for bad for the organization, and has to be thinking on or identifying what operations and the planning has to be done from the side of the organization. So when we are managing or making a management of the issue, okay, it is an anticipatory strategic management process that will be helping any organization to find and show some responsible attitude towards the public, that how best these problems can be solved and the relationship can be built with the general public. There is some scenario technique here. This aims at producing very flexible type of plans which will be dealing with a potential crisis which may hit immediately or sometimes they hit later. So these are the potential crises which will be planning, that whether they have to enter the organization or industry or not. So this maybe a probability can be affecting any of the organization. So this scenario planning which will be helping to understand or producing some plans which will be very flexible enough in handling it. So usually this is going to combine certain facts which are very known. The educated people or expert people will be guessing it. For example, the potential reaction of the press to the news that an employee has committed some fraud into the organization. Okay, that will be affecting the investors, the stakeholders altogether. So one method of a scenario planning is to ask what are the worst things that could happen to your organization or your client. So this can be answering or helping the organization to understand the intensity of any issue, which is a very potential one. Before it comes, if you are able to answer this, you can be coping up with any problem with respect to the crisis. So this is all about part one. So the next part two will be dealing with the crisis management. Please go through it. Thank you.